Hello and welcome to Northern Lights and episode 6 of the online chat show, which focuses on football in the north and northeast of Scotland. My name is Martin Johnston, and each week I'll be joined by our resident journalist and fellow Rothesloon, Dave Edwards. Also joining Dave and I each week will be three well-known names from North football, both from the past and the present. Just a few guys reminiscing about the good old days and from time to time giving a distant opinion on the modern game. A bit like Soccer AM meets the Antiques Roadshow. In this week's show, we'll be discussing the lockdown, league reconstruction and the Scottish pyramid system. Our first guest has been involved in junior football for almost 70 years. As a young man, Norman MacKay was called up for national service in 1957, serving in England, Aden and Kenya, during which time he played football for the British Army. He returned to Aberdeen in 1959, got a new job, got married, moved to Elgin and then to Rothes, all in 1960. Norman moved back to Aberdeen in 1963 when he signed for Muggy Moss Juniors. Injury forced Norman to hang up his boots, which saw him take over as secretary and treasurer of Muggy Moss. And he helped oversee the eventual amalgamation of Muggy Moss Juniors and Roseland Sports under the new banner of Dice Juniors. Over the years, Dice Juniors have become a considerable force in junior football with the development of Ian Mayer Park. Norman currently presides over an ambitious and forward-thinking board at Dice Juniors, who have aspirations to take the club to the next level and beyond. Norman has held a number of key roles in the Scottish junior game, and he currently participates on a number of committees at national level. Welcome, Norman MacKay.
Thank you very much.
Norman, good evening.
Good evening, Dave.
Now, the big question, you lived in my hometown, Rothes.
Aye, but I didn't boast about it.
The really big question is, wait for this one, are you a hindbogger or a cock-incher?
Well, the word cock-incher doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people. But a cock-incher is someone who lived in the Craigellachie side of Rothes,
Correct.
Across the burn. So I was, I'm afraid to say, but again, I didn't boast about it. I did speak about it a lot, but I was a cock-incher.
You were. If I remember rightly, we spoke about this when I had a lovely afternoon at your house and we had a long chat about football. I remember you told me you used to live across from Ian Clark's paper shop, next to Tommy Burns' shop as well.
That's right. Thomas, Tommy.
Uh-huh.
My father works for a company called Clark and Chapman, and they did a lot of distillery work. And rather than go back and forth, they bought this house, and him and my mother went to live in it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got married, I was in Aberdeen, and always have been. When we got married, we went up to Elgin because I was working there in a caravan for a wee while, and then we went to live in Rothes with my mother and father after that.
Good stuff.
So that's me. I didn't know until recently that I was a cock-incher.
Well, Norman, I've got to say, there's nothing wrong with being a cock-incher. It's the hindboggers you have to worry about in this world.
No, I don't accept that at all, Mr. Johnson.
Folks, our second guest on the show this evening is the popular Fraserburgh chairman, Finlay Noble. Finlay's first role with the Broch was as the bootloon back in 1981, and almost 20 years later he took over as club secretary, whilst also representing Fraserburgh on the Aberdeenshire FA and Highland League management committees. In 2007, he joined the SFA as the Highland League representative, replacing Alan MacKay, who had become an office bearer at Hampden Park. In 2008, after the untimely passing of Gordon Chegwin, Finlay took on the role of club chairman. And in 2012, almost 8 years ago to the very day, he became president of the Scottish Highland Football League. Welcome to Northern Lights, Finlay Noble.
Cheers, Martin.
Evening, Finlay.
How are you, Dave?
How you doing? You're looking remarkably well, because I know not that long ago yourself and your wife Alison were both suffering from this dreaded COVID-19.
Aye, we weren't actually tested for it, but we had to phone the NHS 24 and went through quite a lot of questions and things on screen, because we have an online consultation with the doctor, and she pretty much confirmed that we had it. But I mean, Alison had a cough for about 3 weeks, but I didn't have a cough. It was just various other symptoms, pretty much weakness, and sleeping a lot more than I normally do. But no, we're quite lucky. We're still watching the news because it was kind of a bit depressing, and Finnish folk are a damn sight fitter than me. We're dying. It was getting a bit worrying, but I mean, we're fine. I actually feel selfish now, because and you think, well, if I've hid it, why can I not back my work? But I'm working for him. So.
Good. There's an awful lot more important things in football at the moment. Finlay,
There is indeed.
Welcome to the show.
Our third and final guest this evening has had a playing and management career spanning over 40 years. At the age of 18, John Sheran joined Montrose in 1978 from Ellen United, and he spent 10 seasons at Links Park, winning a second division title along the way. John then joined Nairn County for a season before returning to Links Park to help the Gable Endies win promotion to the First Division. John continued his love affair with Montrose, firstly as assistant manager in 1998 and then as manager in the year 2000. John took over the reins at Cove Rangers in 2003, where he won an array of silverware, including 2 Highland League titles. John returned to the Scottish League management with Peterhead, but was back at Cove in 2014, and over the next 5 seasons, he amassed no fewer than 8 trophies for their cabinet, including a further 3 Highland League titles. Ill health prevented John from being in the dugout for Cove's historic playoff wins at the end of season 2018-19, which saw the club elevated to the SPFL. John retired from management last summer, taking up the role of Director of Football at Balmoral Park, overseeing Cove Rangers winning the Ladbrokes League 2 title at their very first attempt. A very warm welcome to John Sheran.
Evening, Martin. Evening, the rest of the guys. You're all looking well.
Yeah, as are you, John. You're looking exceedingly well. You're keeping fine, my friend.
Yeah, keeping very well, thanks. I've got plenty of nurses here to keep an eye on me, so I'm okay.
Of course, yes, aye. Well, this is my first opportunity to say congratulations as Director of Football at Cove Rangers. Many, many congratulations on your club winning the SPFL 2 title, John. Well done indeed.
Yeah, no, the boys have been absolutely fantastic this year. Some tremendous football, and you know, we were well out in front. So it'd have been nice just to go and win it and do it on the park. But we felt we'd earned the right to claim the title anyway. So we're absolutely delighted.
Delighted for you.
Thanks.
Dave, week 5, is that right? No, episode 6 in fact.
6.
Episode 6. Far does the time go?
Mm-hmm.
Again, viewing figures have been rather good.
Viewing figures are unbelievable, Martin. When we first started this 6 weeks ago, we chatted on the Monday with the first show on the Wednesday. The first shows had well over 1,000 viewings now, and I think we're on an average of 800 viewings per show, which is quite remarkable. As you say, it's about 730 or 770 more than we expected, really, for the initial one, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we're still getting good luck messages?
We are. We've had shout-outs this week from Graham Bowie, from Richard Clowney, and from an old mate of mine, Kevin Jardine, from way down there in Labert. He's a big fan of junior football, and Kevin thinks we're doing a wonderful job, and it's very nice of all these guys to say so.
Great stuff, Dave. Before I pass you on to the Dave's head scratcher answer, there was a query came up last week that I think we were speaking about. Rusty Mark Smith had played a couple of times in goals for Martin, if that's right.
That's right.
And John Gardner had told us that he actually started his career as an outfield player. Heaven forbid. I think he probably finished a lot more games early than he did as a goalkeeper, had that been the case. So we're all blessed that he picked up the gloves. And I asked a question. I had I had a gut feeling that for some reason I had thought that Billy Uckert had actually played in goals at some point for Rangers, albeit at a reserve level. And I'm delighted to say Billy watches the show, and we got an answer from him. And basically, he's telling us he twice played for Rangers reserves due to the injury of their keeper. And they didn't want to bring somebody else in on loan because he did a good enough job the first time. So he played in 2 reserve games. But the first time he played for Rangers in goal was at Pittodrie against Aberdeen in the Reserve Cup final. And his claim to fame is that he saved a Joe Harper penalty. He didn't head on to the bar. It rebounded back to Joey. And lo and behold, he saved the rebound as well. However, Rangers lost 2-0 on the night. But Billy Uckert's claim to fame is he played in goals in a cup final for Rangers, and he twice saved a penalty for King Joey Harper. So it's quite a thing. So there was a wee thing in my head said it. I'd read it somewhere, so it must have been tucked away in a column. Or the wee green stamp, or the blue stamp that used to be in the side of the green final. I'd read it somewhere, so there you have it. Anyway, Dave's heat scratcher. Dave, can you tell us what was the heat scratcher you set last week?
Well, the heat scratcher was the second question about a legend that Norman knows well. We spoke about this before, Norman. A man called King Willie Grant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Willie was 8 seasons at Borough Briggs. He scored 248 goals in that 8 seasons, and he finished top scorer in every one of those seasons, bar one. And the question was, who was the top scorer at Elgin City the season that Willie Grant was not the top scorer?
Well, what I can't tell you, Dave, is nobody got the answer right.
Is that right?
Decline, was it?
I'm not really surprised. A couple of good guesses at Jerry Graham, I would imagine.
Jerry Graham and Jimmy Anderson came up a couple of times. John?
John's got an answer.
What about Brian Thompson?
Correct. It wouldn't have been Brian Thompson.
That was good.
Just worth asking.
However good a player Brian was, he was a super striker.
Yeah.
Dave, enlighten us, please.
Well, it wasn't a centre forward. I would have called him, Martin. Would you have called this man an attacking midfielder, possibly? With a
that would be a good shout. Yes,
yeah. This man had the hardest shot I've ever seen in Highland League football. Many people have forgotten him, possibly. He was a Dufton boy who started at Rothes and then moved to Elgin City. And his nickname was Shorty, and his real name was Jimmy McIntosh. So Jimmy McIntosh was top scorer. I think the season that Willie actually broke his ankle. I think Willie broke his ankle having scored 16 goals round about September, October time, and didn't come back until the April. And Shorty McIntosh, I think that season scored 20 odd goals, and I think Jerry Graham was second, and Willie finished third at the end of the season. Am I right in that, Martin?
I believe so, yes. My wee ferret out there managed to whittle out the stats for us, come back with those figures. But yeah, Dufton Loon, Shorty McIntosh. He was a popular guy in the village. Everybody, I think in latter years, he used to go down and watch Dufton and pass comment as to where they were going wrong, etc. And I think a lot of the local lads used to look at him and think, what do you know? But if they only knew, his background. He actually went to Australia in the late 60s and played for Western Australia, played for Azuri in Perth, and was selected at national level and toured with the Australians. So he had quite a remarkable career as a player. But that was the answer to your query.
And he played against some famous names for Azuri and for Western Australia, Martin.
Yeah, he actually played when Manchester United did their tour, 1967, I think it was. He played in the game against Man United, which was, Dennis Law, George Best, the whole shooting match. He played in the game, and Dennis Law was actually sent off for apparently making a comment towards the referee. Who would have believed? Who'd have believed a Scotsman would have had any criticism of a match referee? But no, Shorty had quite a remarkable career for sure.
Yeah. Super player.
Right, gents, I'm going to ask you, where were you on this day, 1994? What you doing in 94, Finlay?
Was I doing 94?
Aye.
84.
We still celebrating Dun United winning the Scottish Cup for the first
There you
time.
go. John, where were you in 94?
I would have been player manager at ex-amateurs.
Aye.
So knowing the amateur season goes on forever, I probably would have been playing on the 28th of May.
Well, there you go. And okay, where you'd have been in 1994, Norman, you'd have been in Dice Juniors.
Well, funnily enough, I was dreaming that day. I was lying in the sun. It was an awful sunny day. Yet to me, I remember it well. And I was lying and I fell asleep and I was dreaming. And I dreamt that Muggy Moss had won the league. They'd played 36 games because there was 19 teams in the league at that time. And they won every one except a game against 25th All Boys. It was a lot you win in mine, and 25th All Boys, but that was actually a team. We also won every cup in the Aberdeenshire area. We went down to Hampden, a crowd of 146,000 at a game. We beat Auchinleck Talbot 5-0. And then I woke up.
Well, gents, there's quite often not much Fitba stories from the archives at this time of year, but on this day, 1994, Kevin Bremner was appointed manager of Highland League side Devonvale. The Foggy-born player, manager of Brora Rangers for the last 2 seasons, had been the hot favourite for the post ever since manager Neil McLennan, Neefy McLennan, had quit. And there's a wee quote here. Bamford's secretary, Stuart McPherson, if it ever happened to him, but he's still Bamford's secretary, he announceced that agreement had been reached with the Sutherland club on compensation believed to be somewhere in the region of £5,000 for Bremner, who still had a year of his playing contract to go. Bremner's appointment at Princess Royal Park brought the new Bamford's boss full circle after 18 years back to the place where his football career started as a 17-year-old. Bremner played for Colchester, Reading, and I played for Reading in an FA Cup final against Liverpool. No, I'll get that wrong. I'll get this right. He played for. This is the amateur bit, guys. I can't read. That's my problem. I'm waiting for my new specs to come for Specsavers. Bremner played for Colchester and Reading, and he played in an FA Cup final against Liverpool with Brighton and Hove Albion. And he also played for Dundee before he joined Brora. I obviously remember him from his days at Keith, from that great championship winning side at Keith. He was quite a remarkable player, guys, was he not?
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing against him. He was a fair striker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite unbelievable, really, that you know, the Bremner family produced, you know,
20, right?
two great players of that son. And I think they did actually play against each other at one point in the English League. I think there is a photograph of them. I think they were both opposite captains, possibly, but maybe Kevin. I know Kevin also watches the show, so there's a fair chance that he'll put us right in that one.
Did you know, Martin? Did you know, Martin, that Kevin and Desmond's brother, Keith, was a professional jockey?
No, that's the one.
Yeah. And their sister, her name escapes me, but she is, or was, until recently, a world veteran squash champion. Lives in South Africa.
Goodness me. I wouldn't have thought there would been any squash courts in Foggy.
No, definitely not.
couple of cattle courts, but no squash courts.
A talented family, nevertheless.
Dave.
Norman, can I take you back to your career in army football?
Go on.
My father actually played in the army team along with a striker. My dad was a goalie. This guy played for Motherwell, a chap called Willie Redpath, but it's long before your time.
No, it wasn't. Willie Redpath played. He actually was a left half, Willie Redpath.
Aye. Well, he
The centre forward for Motherwell at that time was a guy called Wilson Humphreys.
Uh-huh. Good
Mhm.
stuff. So, did you enjoy your football in the army, Norman?
Oh, I enjoyed it. It was, I mean, I was a mom's loon, you can, and I didn't do a lot. And the army shaped me because you went doing there and you get bulletins every day for doing the wrong things right and the right things wrong. You did it was right wrong. And the 10 weeks training was just unbelievable, hard, really hard. But a lot of the guys there were quite fit, young loons. We're only 19 or so. It was fine.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a lovely day here today, and it was warm, but I bet it wasn't as warm as it was over in Aden or even Kenya.
No, Aden was a bit. We played in Aden. We played on the sand, and you waited till 4 o'clock before you got a game. But what happened in the morning, the previous night after the game, the pitch was all rutted, of course, because it only lasted about half time. You felt like you were walking over sand dunes. But next morning, they would get guys who were in trouble. They get them to take big crates and drag them back and forth across the park to flatten it, and then we would put water on it. So by 4 o'clock, it was hard. It was good, and it really, your muscles were really, you're bursting out your skin. Then it was good. It was good.
As a young man, Norman, you lived in Rothes. Did you get involved playing in the Speyside Welfare League like most people in the town?
Well, I did. I played for the Scottish Malt Distillers, SMD up at Dufton.
Oh, at Hardhock.
All right, they used to put a taxi. When I say a taxi, it was like, I felt like Fred Flintstone. You get a little wee mini thing, and I felt like when people were through the fleet and I was running. But they used to give a taxi up to the game. And then you played your match. In the first game I played, and the goalie came in, our goalie came in past me. He said, "Come on!" And I said, "What's happening?" I didn't come, but it was good. So we ran to the thing. By the time we got to the dressing room, half the boys were coming out with their clays over their arm. And I said, "What's happening here?" And I'd even done the queue, and I stood in the queue. In fact, was you got your dram with a steel cup, a dram of clear, because they call it, the clear whiskey, with a steel cup, and you just had to down it in one, which I didn't really enjoy.
My memories of Hardhock, Norman, is before you could play the game, they had to clear what they call the sheep Sheran off the pitch, because it was the sheep were on it all day, all week. And then
I played centre half at that time, and I was in among it all the time. My legs were like covered. It meant the other boys kept it off him. It was okay.
Happy days, Norman.
Oh, happy days.
Finlay, you've been at Fraserburgh, man and boy. I certainly can remember, I think the first time I ever met you was I travelled across with Rothes and had helped carry. The format used to be if you helped them taking in the kit, there's maybe a slight chance that they didn't throw you out and you managed to get into the game for nothing. That was the normal ploy. And I can remember you as a, believe it or not, curly-headed, reed-headed youngster pointing us in the direction of what to put all the kit for the away team. You've certainly come on a long way in that time.
Well, I think it was a popular pastime, certainly in the later part of the 70s. Going along to watch the fit back to Bells League. Quite often sneak in. But it was the done thing there, I think. Probably still is new, but just ain't fast to catch anybody. But George Marley, he'd been around the corner for me. He was like a coach at the time. And he was sort of taking him out of the games on the team bus if there wasn't a supporters bus. And the guy who was cleaning the boots at the time, Benny Smith, Dave will mind him. He was involved in a accident, so he couldn't do the boots. So Jimmy Adams and Ian Smith come up to my house to speak to my mum and ask if it was okay if I could go and do it. So that was in 1981, and it kind of took off for there as being part of the club, and then moved on to the kit, which I really loved doing. And if there's one job that I really enjoyed was that, because I kind of got to be in a dressing room and run about that environment. But Charlie obviously became a manager. I actually worked with Charlie on the building sites, so he was like well, he was there for 27.5 years. But he was one of the kind of the biggest influences probably on me. A lot of the things that in his philosophies were kind of sort of bide out the press, kind of they show your full drawer to the public. And I've kind of maintained that sort of belief that if you just keep yourself and didn't make silly or daft statements in the press, then should be fair enough. But I learned a lot off Charlie. The teams, he can run the youth teams. It was him and sort of started that after, which we're still continuing. He sort of his first team, about 3 or 4 years doing a line, and that was how his philosophy was at the Brock. It was difficult to start with because we were pretty poor in the 80s. There wasn't a big following, and we tended to lose most weeks. But it sort of came together, and kind of the young lads that he brought into the team started to have a bit of success, mainly in cups, can get into the finals, they winning them. But then that came on board. Then eventually, the pinnacle was winning the league. But as far as my role, moving up through to be chairman, I mean, I was lucky enough to serve under Jimmy Adams, Calvin Morris, and Gordon. And I learned a lot for R3. I mean, some of the things that they all did and things that they wanted the club to and how to behave. I've sort of taken that on board. I mean, obviously Jimmy and Sadie Gordon are no longer with us, but Calvin's, he's still on the board. But he gave up the chairmanship when he moved out to Dunfermline. I still speak to him regularly and sound things out for him. But also, I mean, Neil Clark, I mean, you'll all be aware of who Neil is. He's a very good friend of mine, very down to earth, and I've used him quite a lot in the other roles I've in, the current roles as well, just to bounce things off, gauge opinion off of him, and you always get a decent answer. Sometimes it's naive you want to hear, but can well make mistakes. But Neil's very honest, and I like his company, and I like speaking to him about the game. As far as my roles in the Highland League and SFA, Sandy Stables by far. Still miss him yet. Spoke to him almost weekly on various things. And I mean, I might be being a young lad up at Kind of Park, and Sandy was walking about, and it was, it's the money for Keith, and he was always that to me. I mean, because of the money for Keith, and I thought he was about 60 odd in the early 80s, and he was just a lot older than he actually was. But I mean, at some cracking times with Sandy. I mean, we've all seen him at 10-5 when his team's lost. He just can ride out the road and just let him calm down. But he was a really good friend, and very knowledgeable about the game in the north. And also John Grant. I mean, he was a common influence when I was a president of the league. Very knowledgeable guy, years and years of experience, and there wasn't much things that cropped up that he hadn't seen in his term. So these are the sort of guys that's going to help me along to fit I am today, which I still pinch myself wondering how I got to this stage, but it seems to be working.
Yep, certainly a lot. You've like myself, a lot of characters, a lot of influential people, a lot of experienced people, and a lot of folk with the Highland League very much at their heart. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And it's there's absolutely nothing wrong with the Highland League. We're kind of left to our own devices for over 100 years, and we're going to be. We should be very proud of the product that has been created in that time.
Dave?
Hi, Finlay, before I go into have a chat with John, there's one Finlay Noble story that I think is absolutely wonderful. You know the one I'm going to tell, don't you? I was covering a cup day against Keith one day, and I walked into the ground, and Finlay met me in full Highland outfit. I says, Finlay, why are you wearing this? He said, oh, well, we're playing Keith this afternoon, but I've got a wedding to go to, but I'll get to the wedding by half time. After 90 minutes, it's 0-0. After 120 minutes, Finlay's still there. Finlay, you tell the story. I think it was your cousin's wedding, was it not? But
It was actually across the street.
the church across the street. And you did really well until they played the wedding video. And your mum noticed you weren't there amongst the crowd.
Well, my mum was aware because she fell out with me when I arrived. But no, when the wedding video was played back, there was no appearance for me. But Keith actually scored in the last minute of that tie. And I was kind of the only time I've ever been glad to see somebody score. It was in a bra. I never missed a meal.
I'm going to start off. You're an echt boy. I'm going to start off by a Peter Mitchell line, my old pal at P&J. He used to say, "There's a late score just coming in. It's 5v5 echt.
Yeah, that's it. Although I was actually born in Kings Wells, I just ended up, I lived in Garlogie. That's how I got involved with echt.
Just as a by the by, nobody laughed when Peter said it either, Dave, so you're in good company.
Are you, Martin? John, your early days at Montrose. My pal Kevin sent me a book and I got it last week. It's the old black and white football days. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a marvellous book with all the team lineups and all the photographs. You're in it twice. And a young John Sheran with Montrose and a slightly more mature John Sheran in the Montrose strip also. But tell us about your starting your full-time career or your senior career at Montrose.
I signed when I was at Elm United in 1978, eventually getting called up in 1979, just when Kenny Cameron was just coming to the end of his time there. So I played on the Saturday against Stirling Albion, made my debut against Dundee, played against Stirling Albion on the Saturday, got called in on the Monday saying I was being called up for Ellen Juniors. Half an hour later, I was back Juniors because the manager had been sacked. So, it was back to square one again, and then a few weeks later Bobby Livingston had taken over and I got called up again by Bobby and played the last 7 or 8 games of that season. Unfortunately we got relegated out of Division 1 into Division 2 at that time, so but it was great times. A lot of young boys from Aberdeen travelling up and down the road in a minibus, so it was a bit harum scarum at times in that minibus, I've got to say.
Some good tales from those days, John. I'm sure some of them you could share with us.
Oh, I think there were lots of times when we were doing things we shouldn't do. The guy that signed most of us at Montrose was a guy, Ronnie Cross. I think probably most people remember Ronnie. And Ronnie always claimed he'd set the record, 26 minutes from the bridge at Montrose to the Bridge of Dee. And we tried for years and years and years and never managed to do it in 26 minutes. But lots of speed and fines and lots of other things on the way to try and beat Ronnie's record.
I remember Ronnie played for Rothes late in his career as an inside forward, and he was a clever footballer.
Yeah, he was. He was a great lad. He still used to play in the bounce games that we had when we were down there, so he was a great lad, Ronnie.
You enjoyed your time at Montrose, John, obviously.
Yeah, he did some great years to start with there, and then I broke my leg 1981 up at Huntley on a Sunday morning in a pre-season friendly. No stretcher, so got carted off in a door that was lying at the side of the pitch. So that kind of put paid for a wee spell. And then I got back in the team again and then ended up getting released in summer of '83 and went to Nairn for 6 months. So with Malcolm Cowie and a few boys up there, Neil Fivey, and good team up there at that time.
That's what I was wanting to ask you about, John, is your time at Nairn. How on earth did that come about?
I had a few different options at that time, but Malcolm Cowie was putting together, in his eyes, a really strong team, and it was. He signed Ian Grant, Neil Fivey, Doug Davidson, John McGinley was there. So it was a good, strong team. I remember Sammy Forsyth was already there. He was a good player. So it was a fair trek up and down there at the time. We trained in Aberdeen, which wasn't great because you weren't with the rest of the boys, and it wasn't practical to get to Nairn at that time on a Wednesday night or a Monday night for training. So, but no, I enjoyed my time up there. But when I got the chance to go back to Montrose, it Christmas time in '83, I just said it was too good a chance to go back, so that was me. I was off again.
Yep. But there was a fair smattering of Speyside loons in that team, Dave, at near at that time. John, you've said Gordon Robertson,
Yes.
Neil Fivey.
Yep.
Gordon's from Archestown, which is just up the road for Rothes. Neil Fivey. Derek Thompson, was he there then?
Yeah, Derek was there, yeah. Davy Simpson.
Davy Simpson for Rothes. I mean, obviously the connection there being that Malcolm Cowie was my PE teacher initially at Speyside High School, latterly guidance, although he obviously failed to guide me in the right direction. But we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago, Dave. He's out in New Zealand.
New Zealand. Yeah, he's done well in New Zealand and got the equivalent of the MBE in New Zealand last year for his services to football. Wonderful achievement.
Dave.
Okay, Norman, can I take you back to your days with Muggy Moss?
Muggy Moss. Yeah.
Well, a name to conjure with.
A name, definitely. Muggy Moss, you know, were the Banks of the early years, which I just missed. From 1907 to 1929, they won the league nearly every year. They won all the cups. They were a tremendous outfit. Mm-hmm. In fact, they flew to a match down in Kello, which is unbelievable, in the Scottish Cup. But the Moss were a fair outfit. Unfortunately, when I played, they weren't as good. Maybe because of me, I don't care. But certainly, we had one or two good players. Adrian Connell was the goalkeeper. Jim Gerrard, a slightly hard tackling right back, as you well know.
Yeah.
Jim had one. You hear Jim, that guy, boy wouldn't pass me a bit of pace. He would go past him, and Jim would just sidle up to him and say, "Don't bother trying that again, because you'll be outside the park." And Roy Strathday, who was a friend of Ronnie Cross's, of course. Roy, he was a good left back. He played for us well. But we weren't the greatest team in the world at that time. But with a lot of stories to tell, some funny stories. You know, probably you all know or have heard of Ian Mayer, who was our trainer. He came in the year that England won the World Cup, 1966. And Ian was a great character, and he would do anything for the boys. There was one guy in particular came to us, a boy called Bobby Walsh. And Bobby was a tremendous player. He played with like Jim Holton. You remember Jim Holton played for Man United? He played with him in Glasgow. And Bobby was a superb player. Little wee ginger-headed guy. And Ian just doted in this guy. One day our boys didn't turn up, going to Peterhead to play Peterhead Corinthians, as it was at that time. And when we got down to Hanover Street where we were leaving from, here's a big shore porter's lorry. One of the big, huge things, which Ian drove. This was our transport for the day, so we just piled into this. No windows or anything, just piled in the back. And he said, mind, that seat there, that's for Bobby. He had an armchair just for us, Lord Bobby. And great times, super fun. In fact, I went to see Bobby about a year ago. He's not so well just now, but he was all right, he was fine. But funny things. We didn't have the best of teams, but we had a happy team, and everybody worked together. We used to have dinner dances. A lot of clubs had dinner dances, and we used to charge 10 shillings, 50p to each player for this dinner dance. And that was a lot of money at that time. But what we did with them, we used to give them a ticket for them and their wives, and we used to give them a drink at a table for 10 shillings, 50p. Imagine that happening now.
Doubt it, Norman. Tell me, there was one special week when 3 hat-tricks were scored in the same week. Tell us about that.
Well, your researcher's been looking at things that nobody cares about. We were playing, it wasn't called the Grill League Cup at that time, it was just a League Cup, and it had probably been sponsored, I don't know. But our section was Parkville to play twice, and Stony Wood. So on the Tuesday we played Parkville at Linksfield. We both shared Linksfield that time. And I was fortunate enough to score 3 goals. They were at top ends, really. The second game was at Stony Wood on the Thursday. Again, I was lucky enough to score 3 goals. I wasn't playing centre half at that time, of course. I was playing centre forward. And then on the Saturday we played Parkville again, and I scored 3 goals. But the guy in the other team, Parkville, was a guy called Keithy Rattray. Don't know if you know him, do you?
Ex-Elgin.
Keith Rattray, who went to Keith. He went to Aberdeen, then he went to Keith. But the saying was that Keithy scored 3 goals for Parkville and got signed by Aberdeen, and I got offered terms by Ochterada Rovers.
And Keithy Rattray played for Elgin City as well, if I'm not mistaken.
He may have done. He may have done. He was a great goal scorer. His son Murray was our manager until last year.
Rattray, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that was some of the experiences at Muggy Moss.
Good stuff, Norman. How about you, man?
Finlay, 1999, your club secretary, and this seems to be a trait with young club secretaries. I can remember somebody at the age of 19 at Rothes being told when he took on the job as club secretary, and one part of the condition is you go to the Highland League management meetings, and you go at that time at the north of Scotland. So it would appear the same happened to you. You appointed club secretary, and you're the club rep on the Highland League. Must have been some pretty imposing characters in the Highland League management committee and the Aberdeenshire FA at that time.
Well, I was helping Ian Smith in the secretarial role for a number of years before I became secretary, but I had to deputise for him at a league management committee meeting. It was held at Borough Briggs. Almost the opening gambit was a vote of no confidence in John Grant. Am I thinking, oh my God, this was going to be like?
I just can't imagine an organisation, clubs coming together where somebody would consider having a vote of no confidence in the main administrator. I couldn't see that happening in modern terms, could you?
I think it was a row. I want to say for the club was, but it was a row between John and this individual, and then it was just like out of the blue. They wanted a vote. There was obviously nobody else wanted it. But I can remember thinking, gee whiz, is this what's going to be like? But no, I'm in Ian sort of handed over reins for the 99-2000 season. I took on the Aberdeenshire role and the league management committee, and there was plenty of folk there that were ready to voice their opinions, which was again that's the whole point of the forum. But kind of always been kind of lover of kind of rules and regulations, and especially when FIDBA, and can get the new handbooks out every year. It's like getting over Wally at Christmas time. You look for still the same rubbish that's in it, but can you still look forward to reading the whole thing again? But no, it was thrown into the deep end, but loved every minute. Still do.
I have to say, and I've got to confess here, it is an acquired thing that my claim to fame is I renumbered the Highland League constitution for John Grant before I moved on. So that was my kind of contribution there.
At least you can understand it now. Kind of the words that they used in early doors. Oh my God, it was not legal jargon and rubbish. Nobody could understand it.
And I think also quite often that if a rule hasn't been looked at since 1899 or whatever, you think, well, why change it? And then you obviously suddenly it jumps up at you in 1998, and as you say, it's pretty old speak or whatever. But as I say, you'd have other club reps at that time throw some names at us.
Well, when I started, that was Peter HEID were just kind of leaving. I think there must have been now. So it was nobody there, but obviously Stuart McPherson, Alan MacKay, Sandy Stables, and guys that can been around the block a few times, even at that point.
Yeah.
But there was, even now you still only get maybe half a dozen folk that speak. Kind of quite a lot sit and listen, but they're there to listen. I mean, I was when the Lowland League was set up, and we were organising the pyramid in the early thing for that. Myself and John Grant was on the committee that dealt with that, and we were the sort of Highland League representatives. And the Lowland League and members of the SFA were kind of forcing us, or trying to force us down the line of having a board of directors instead of 18 individual clubs come along to each of the meetings. We says, well, we're just not doing that, because if there's only 6 folk speaks, the other 12 are listening and they're entitled to speak. Because the minute you get into a board, a 5 folk, 6 folk, and then you'll have an imbalance between Aberdeenshire reps and the North reps, and then that just leads to more issues and squabbling. So it's fine. In fact, I think the Lowland League are wishing that they had would follow the Highland League's route, because I don't think their board of directors is working just too well at the moment. Maybe I say that, but never mind.
John, can I take you back to your return to Links Park in 1989? You went back and you won promotion.
Well, yeah, I went back in 83 to Montrose, and then we won the league in 1985.
Okay.
But
my researcher, John.
well, no, I did. I had a spell in Australia from 88 to 89, so I did go back a third time in 89 after I'd been in Australia. But the first time was after I was at Nairn. We ended up winning the league in 1985, which obviously was a huge thing for everybody at the club. First time they ever won the league.
Who was your manager at that time?
Ian Stewart.
Oh, Ian Stewart. He was there a long time.
He was there a long time, yes, and he was a hard taskmaster who liked to get his own way.
Some notable teammates at that was Les Barr there at that time.
Les Barr, Dougie Sumner, Martin Allen, Neil Forbes, Ray Charles. So some fantastic players, and we didn't score a lot of goals, which I keep reminding Martin about every time I see him. But they certainly was a great team, and the spirit and the camaraderie was fantastic. So we had some great journeys on the way back.
Martin was in one of those photographs along with Raymond Charles and yourself. Super big keeper was Raymond Charles, even latterly at Cove Rangers also.
Yeah, Raymond has always been a really good keeper, and I remember him when we were at Cove at the playing an under-20s game one night, and he would have been probably 3 or 4 stone heavier than he should have been, and still brought off some tremendous saves in his 40s. So he was a great lad, Raymond.
Yeah, I mean, Montrose were a decent team at that time, John.
Yeah, we kind of, when Ian came in at Christmas '83, and it was him that took me back, he started bringing people in, and the team was getting stronger towards the end of that season. Chip McClellan playing left back, so we were pretty dogged at the back. And then he signed Doug Sumner in the summertime, and Doug just gave us the platform for everybody to play off, of getting the ball up to him. So it was nice to win a league that had Dunfermline and Alloa, some really strong teams, Wraith Rovers in that league at the time. So it was fantastic to win it.
Always wonderful to win promotion, John. You know quite a bit about that now, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, you never get sick of winning leagues or winning anything. So I think it's important that you go into every game wanting to win, and I think that was instilled in me when I was young, and I think it's an important trait that everybody's got to have.
You've always been a winner, John.
Well, I didn't like getting beat ever, so I think it was you just got to go after it. And I think Les Barr keeps reminding me that I was still cheering the boys on when we were 6-0 down at Morton in the last minute to see if we could get back in the game. But some of it's a bit blind faith, but some tremendous times.
Thanks for that, John.
Norman, you spoke about Muggy Moss being the Banks of D of their day, but there was a lot of good junior clubs in Aberdeen at the time. Am I right in saying, did Muggy Moss have a couple of good Scottish Cup runs? What about St Macher? Did they get the semi-finals of the Scottish Junior Cup?
No. I think that if I remember correctly, in the late 60s, Rosemount did well.
Rosemount, that's what I'm thinking on. I beg your pardon.
Rosemount did well. They got into semi-finals. They got beaten at what's now the St Johnston ground, McDermott Park, is it? They got beat down in the semi-final, Rosemount. But of course, that time we had winners of the Scottish Cup from Aberdeen, in that Sunnybunk won it in '53, and Bunksody won it in '57, and they were good teams. A lot of the players, like the Bunksody, nearly if you go through the team, nearly every one of them was senior. Goalie was Tubby Ogston, The right back was, what the hell was he again? I'll mind his name. The left back was Jockey Robertson. The wonder stud and Stuarty Fraser was left half. He got signed for Dundee United. Stuarty Fraser. Dickie Ewan went to Aberdeen. Andy Walker went to Aberdeen. Billy Anderson, I think, went Highland League. But did he go to Keith? Maybe he did. Billy McKenzie went to Aberdeen. And Jackie Lorne, who said left, and he went to Leicester City. So they're a tremendous team. They beat Kilsyth Rangers 1-0 in the Scottish final. And Sunnybunk in 53, they beat Lochee Harp 2-1. They're over 20,000 that game, which was nothing compared to in the 50s. You wouldn't have believed it. In the 50s, Petershill played Urban Meadow in 51 or 52. 77,000 a gate at Hampden. Junior game. Imagine that.
Unbelievable.
And the gate was only £7,000. They must have paid 10 pence, or 5p now, 5p in new money, 10p in all money again. They get back to us. We never really had a great run in the Scottish Cup. We usually started badly and faded in most of the games, to be honest. But it was good. It's always been. I wouldn't give it a D in a cert if I wasn't hidden in Fidwa. It's unbelievable. Just a great game. I remember when I was president of the juniors in Aberdeen, Banks HEID, who were a reasonable side, they had booked their dinner a year in advance. And it turned out to be they were playing the Scottish Cup on a Saturday, and it was Friday night, so none of the players were there. So in my little words before, I said to the committee, don't worry, boys, it's 11 against 11. They were playing Kirkintilloch, Rob Roy, and they got beat 11-0. It's a shame. My heart bled for him.
Dave.
A couple of names you mentioned there in that great Banks HEID team, Norman. Dickie Ewan landed up, would you believe, at my hometown Rothes. Dickie landed up at Rothes.
Did he? He was. He must have been hard up.
Well, no, he was at the end of his career. He was a classy player, Dickie Ewan.
Yeah.
In place, bit in pace, but a classy player. And Stuart Fraser, he landed up player manager at Brora Rangers, if I'm not.
Maybe he may have done.
Yeah.
He was a good player. A lot of good players.
Yeah. Finlay, can I take you back to 2007? Very proud moment for you, because you were the representative of the Highland League, and you were appointed to be representing the league at the SFA, and a proud moment for you.
Oh, it was really proud. Still is. And with Alan MacKay becoming second vice president, his role was opened up. So it was actually Peter McIntosh from Nairn had approached me. It was Highland League dinner and suggested that I put my name forward for it. I thought, well, can we have the time? So I spoke to my boss at work, and he said, no, when you go, because can I have the meetings and have you travelling doing? I've got to book holidays, so I didn't want get to impede in my work, but they were fine with it. So when I've been sort of blazers with their noses in the trough, at least I can say that for me to do it, I've got to time off my work and eat into my annual leave. But it was brilliant. In fact, the funny thing, the first committee that I was appointed to was a disciplinary committee, which folk found amusing, given that Charlie was a manager at the time. I remember we played Mad in a friendly up at the Pleasure Park in Mad, and Stephen Duff and Paul Cheen had appeared, and Stephen congratulated me on my role. And asked, what committee are you on? And I says, oh, I'm on the disciplinary committee. Well, the two of them, it was about 5 minutes of laughing. They just couldn't stop laughing, given the fact that because Charlie was our manager. In fact, I actually come across some of this. I kind of clearing out my computer just the other week, and I come across a list of Charlie's misdemeanors. It's a fairly sizable list, and some of the referees' reports, and because they have to state exactly if it was said, and so the effing and blinding is included. But it was with one letter that we just kind of added a few names and changed the date and sent it away. It wasn't him, it was Sheran. It was one of the supporters was standing beside the dugout. In fact, he also got away with that once. The scene through it.
And all these years later, you're still heavily involved at the SFA, Finlay?
Yes, I'm on the professional game board. I replaced Sandy Stables on that. With the rest of the committees I've been on, in club licensing, disciplinary appeals, you could get your teeth into them. It was good. PGB, I'm there representing the higher league, which is a great honour. But the vast majority of the meetings is actually involving stuff further up the game. But it's still a pleasure to be there and an honour. You can walk up the steps to Hampden and get to the door and think, how did I get to this position?
Starting off as boot boy at Belsley Park, Finlay, as a youngster, and landing up in 2008 as chairman of Fraserburgh Football Club, another really proud moment for yourself.
It was, exactly, very proud. It was bittersweet given the circumstances in Gordon's death. But I think Gordon, he must have tweaked slightly because I officially became chairman of the Broch on the 1st of April. So, Ken Gordon, as I did, it would have been some surprise that he engineered that when April Fool's Day to become chairman of the Broch. But no, it's I'm just a supporter of the Broch. I'm just lucky enough to be in the position I am. And we're just there to keep a club going for if it becomes behind us. Just as Abdi before me and the rest of the board back through the last 100 and so years. That's what they did. They just kept it going until we come along, and then we've got to do the same for what was behind us.
Yeah. Am I right in saying, Finlay, as a youngster, you went for maybe 10, 12 years without missing a game at all, home or away?
I think it was about 11 and a half years. But, it wasn't something I aimed to do. It was just so enjoyable watching my local team play football.
Mm-hmm. And you say you learned from some great men. I had the pleasure as well. I was there for about 9 months as commercial manager or marketing manager, we called it at the time, working for Jimmy Adams. And Jimmy Adams is a great man and a great benefactor for Fraserburgh Football Club.
Aye, definitely. Folk didn't realise it. If it wasn't for Jimmy, the club would have folded in the late 70s. So he came in, and there was no money, obviously. The team that right at the beginning of the early 80s, maybe Jimmy's first team that was put together, was predominantly Aberdeen-based players. The wages were quite high, and then within about a season and a half, it was pretty evident. I'm only 12 or 13 at the time, so I'm not marking, wasn't even party to decision making. But I think the club was perilously close to falling off the water again. But at that point, he'd appointed Charlie, and then the rest of history. We've just continued that all through the years. The benefits are here in a local side. Granted, back then I was a lot of Broch folk that worked in the Broch. Now it's although the majority is still local guys, they may be working in Aberdeen, but they were born in the Broch or the surrounding area, so they still see themselves as local. There are one or two, but if you want to improve, then you have to do that sort of stuff. But I wouldn't ever like to see us lose the philosophy. I can see in young kids coming through, and maybe one or two getting into the first team.
There's the old saying about the Broch conveyor belt, Finlay. You always did bring through your own players from youth right through, and Charlie might play them for one game and drop them out for maybe 4 or 5, bring them back, and that was the way he did it.
Aye, he was good at it. He just threw them in, and some of the games you look back at, big important games, and he would just put a young loon in, and you think, what on earth's he doing? But I suppose Loon was put on to the pitch with only great tactical instructions or whatever. It was just to gang and do best and what you've been doing in the under 21s or 20s or the youths, and he need great faith in that kind of folk, the youngsters, and your big name players, Michael Stevens, Chris Hunters, Marino Scott, Murray, Derek Mill, James Guinness, that kind of folk. Charlie had great belief in them as young kids, and I always remember one of the things he always used to say was that do not write somebody off for their 17, because in 5 years' time they'll still only be 22. And a lot of the names that I've mentioned quite possibly wouldn't have have been involved in the Broch for any length of time if it wasn't for the fact that Charlie was a manager. Just yeah, they were rogues or anything, but and sometimes attitudes were one of the best. But Charlie never gave up on him. So other managers might have. It doesn't always work like that though, but it did for him.
Thanks for that, Finlay.
John, you became assistant manager at Montrose in 1998, but was there a wee spell at Devonville before that?
1991, I was at Devonville with Joe Harper and Billy Anderson. Played a few games, probably about 8 or 10 games, but wasn't really enjoying it. And between work commitments and other family commitments, I had 4 kids by that time. It was I decided to stop for a couple of years, and then I went back, got involved at HEID Amateurs, which in turn gave me the opportunity to go back to Montrose assistant manager to Kevin Drinkle in '98.
And then taking on the role as manager in the year 2000.
Yeah, Kevin did a couple of years, and then the job came up, and I thought, well, I'm here now. I better just get a crack and see how we go. When you've got no money and you're trying to bring boys in for £25 a week, it's pretty tough going. But we managed to win the Forfarshire Cup, managed to keep them off the bottom of the league, so I felt we'd done okay at the time. And just when you were kind of getting close and pushing for things, you felt you needed a couple of players. The funds weren't there to get those extra couple of players. But I enjoyed my time. It was good. But you know, like most managers, you end up getting the sack.
And who did you have as an assistant when you took over yourself?
I had Malcolm Lowe to start with, who was a player I played with at Montrose when I was young, and brought him back. He was a coach at Forfar at that time. And then I had Davy Larter, and Davy Robertson was involved, and Henry Hall. So with a few different people over the time in there. And but at that time, we're training on a bit of ground which was part of the rugby club. You know, didn't have any proper training facilities. It was quite difficult to get everybody together to work on anything. In my day when I played, we trained on the pitch. By the time I'd been back as a manager, we weren't allowed on the pitch, so it was just one of those things that you had to deal with. But I enjoyed my time, learned a lot, and you know, it's just part of the story at Montrose now.
Dave?
Norman, can I take you back as well? Am I right in thinking that Dice Juniors was an amalgamation of 2 clubs?
Yes. Yes. Well, what happened was I got a phone call one day from an architect friend of mine asking me to go up and see him. So I went up and he showed me some drawings of what was proposed for Lynxfield Stadium as it was. And if you remember, Lynxfield Stadium had 2 pitches, the stadium pitch and Lynxfield 2. So at that time there were 3 clubs. I think it was Parkvale, ourselves, and I think it was maybe Lewis United were playing there. So but one of the pitches was going to be taken over immediately for hockey, which left 1 pitch between 3 clubs. So we went and looked for something to satisfy our needs. And we heard in the grapevine again that Roseland Sports were in problem maintaining. They were quite a good team, but they were having a problem maintaining the park. So we approached them with a view to going there as a second set of the team, but they weren't keen on that because they weren't looking after the ground, to be honest. So what happened was that we then spoke about amalgamation. With Muggy Moss's record, I wasn't too keen on changing the name from Muggy Moss. Equally, and I can understand it, they weren't keen on changing the name of Roseland Sports. So eventually we had an agreement that it would be Dice Juniors. So that's what happened. The unfortunate thing was with their good team all left the committee, and our nice good team were left with us. So we ended up with near enough a good team, but a good committee. So however, we worked through it, and we made a lot of improvements with an old Nissan hut that leaked more water than our defence did, leaked goals. So we decided to sort that, and we built new dressing rooms. And since then, we've added on various things with tractor shed, a players' lounge. We've probably got the best looking dugouts in junior football, certainly. Well-made things, they're really good. We now have a good committee, and we've got a good manager and a second assistant, and we are coming on quite well. And I think this season we'll do reasonably well in the league. We've signed 1 or 2 players already, and things are looking good.
Whenever this, and that's the $84,000 question, Norman.
So what does that do, Dave?
Whenever that season may start.
Whenever that season may start, we're ready. I don't know if you noticed, maybe in our website, if you look at that, our groundsman's been there every day, which he shouldn't have been, of course, but there was nobody near him. And people walking along the railway line with their dogs and doing their walks every day are looking down, and he's got the centre circle with NHS on it, which is looking good. So no, things are going well. 2 new committee members came in and did their first meeting yesterday, and they're already working on. One of them's working on the admission to the Aberdeenshire League for the under-20s. Another one's a guy who's got a building company, and he's already been doing some work at the club. So things are looking good.
Good. Thanks for that, Norman.
Okay.
Finlay, there are, like everything else, there's lots of those really special moments in your career or whatever. Presidency of the Highland League?
Aye. That was a experience. Loved every minute. Well, not every minute. I loved quite a lot of the minutes of it. Why Sandy Stables ever thought that being a second term was a good idea, I'm not sure. But that was great. I mean, it was little special things that you feel happy or proud to be involved in. I mean, in my first year, Brora won the league. And for guys and folk that have helped out with Brora, I mean, Gavin McLeod, Kevin and Deirdre, Sheena that works in the canteen, John Young, for example. I mean, and that's folk that have been with the club for a long, long time, and they've been leathered Mestwicks and are languishing down the bottom of the league. So to see that type of volunteer get success, it was special to be part of it. Although I wasn't actually invited to go because Brora had played somebody that they shouldn't have in the League Cup, so I get the blame for all that because they got thrown out. So I was told I wasn't be welcome, but I went. It was good. I think turned rosy enough. But no, things like that. It's good to be part of, because it is history.
Before I take you on to the big game that you hosted at Belsley recently, I'm going to take you back a few years. Am I right in saying you had a very special guest at your wedding dance, or your wedding dinner?
Oh, it was there for a whole day, full invite. And the qualifying cup. Put next to the cake and the top table. That's true.
There's many brides. Alison's a pretty easygoing bride, obviously.
Well, I'm very lucky in that respect. I mean, I was about to say we're mates in football, but we were actually in the same class at school, so we never lived around each other at school. I pretty much understand why. But then I was handing in match reports, and Mark Jackson used to do match reports for the Herald. But on the odd occasion, if he was on holiday or he'd been the manager or something, I would get could you take some notes and mark up a report and take it in. And Paul Allison was a journalist for the Herald at the time, so we just got in yapping and then sort of went through the pictures, that kind of stuff, and then it sort of took over there. So football has always been part of my life, and certainly at the time of Allison. So she laughed when I suggested getting a qualifying cup onto the top table, but she didn't disagree. So.
So have you got wedding photos with the cup in the?
It was a most popular thing there.
And then, of course, the Rangers game, which is a couple of years ago now. But
18,
it looked like it was going pear-shaped at one point, but you got it back again. For the benefit of the viewers, if there's anybody staying on the other side of the moon at the time, maybe you want to tell the viewers what the circumstances were with the Scottish Cup tie?
Well, we ended up with Hen Dragons Rangers. I sort of worked for the Drabazon, so I was watching it on Sky Go in the office. Now Sky Go is about 30-40 seconds behind the actual, if you're watching it on a TV. So as the drama was coming towards the end, because we were one of the last teams out, my phone started getting absolutely crazy with this text messages. So I thought, oh well, something's happened. They knew it came for the Rangers. But kind of initially, because it was about 6 weeks, because it was the winter shutdown coming up between the draw being made and then actually playing a game. It was a couple of months. So it was kind of a lot of time to. It was good because it was a lot of work. But the occasion and the thing, I mean, the first night, well, maybe certainly the first couple of days, I got a phone call for the Rangers and spoke to them. And I was quite doing the dumps afterwards because I thought, with kind of other things I heard, that it was going to be highly unlikely that we would be able to host the game. So it was it wasn't just a good moment for us at that time. But then, to be fair to Rangers, but then a couple of days later we had a meeting with the police and a lot of the sort of the SFA come up. Rangers was there, and we said, I said, look, would really like to host the game here, and we appreciate that the crowd would be a lot smarter if we went elsewhere. I mean, I think Rangers were initially keen in playing at Batodry. I guess who Aberdeen thought about it, but that was one of the things that they suggested. But we said that we would like to host it here. The police says, well, if you want that, we'll make sure it happens. And Rangers agreed. And they were really excellent to deal with. They offered us help in every aspect of the game. In fact, they even printed their own tickets at one point. Well, their supporters did. That was a hoot. But no, I mean, the occasion, I mean, Mark Cowie, the manager, he still is a young manager, but he was quite young then, but he handled it excellent with the squad, the players, and made sure everybody was shared out between the various media outlets. I think Graham Johnston got Women's Weekly, if I'm right. And Sky came up and said they would televise the game. It was absolutely brilliant. But then, because they're up for a week and they were surfing and they were in a lifeboat with a cup, and it was beautiful weather until a Friday, and then it was -6 and through the night, Thursday into Friday, and the pitch was like a brick, and they would go and shoot our covers for Arbroath. So I thought, we're going to be fine, but it was too cold even for our covers. It was like solid. And the game obviously went off, and it was 10 days later I thought it would played, but it was just a circus, and something we've never experienced before, and it was great. See, looking back, it was absolutely brilliant, and I think we did ourselves proud. Also on the pitch, but certainly off of the pitch. I mean, it was a big talk on, but as I say, our police and Rangers and SFA were excellent for us, and helped it along, and I would recommend to anybody, if at all they can, host that kind of games at the Ring Ground, and they should, because that's for they deserve to be, and it allows the folk that come in a normal week to see that kind of game in their home ground. And I wouldn't go somewhere else and I'll watch it.
I think I remember at the time there was there a headline about you wanted to create memories for the local people the day that Rangers came to Bellslie.
Well, actually, I mean, folks still rave on about the Dundee game in 1959. The Celtic game in 1970 for a lifeboat disaster. I mean, we've got that plastered out of the wardrobe. Maybe only plastered out. We've got just one or two photos of each, and because it's big occasions, and you hear folks speaking about that two games. So it was only but right that we should at least make an attempt to host the game, and that's what we did. I mean, guys that come to our games that are Rangers supporters, and they were just so emotional seeing Rangers playing at the Bellslie. They thought it would be something that they would never have seen, and we did. So in that respect, although it was a lot of hard work, we enjoyed it. Looking back, we enjoyed it maybe at a time. But when the game got off, I mean, and stupidly looking back, that gave us like an extra 10 days. Now, up until the Friday of that game, we're nothing ready. So it gave us a week and a half to savour the actual the lead up to the game, because we hadn't been able to do that for the original date because it eventually went off and we were so busy with, it's certainly the way we distributed tickets, because we did that ourselves, because we wanted everybody that was on the game in the Broch end that deserved to be here. We didn't want folk in that doesn't darken our door, and our supporters club helped out by can ruin the pitch, because we're a couple of home games obviously, and can get in folk named that they can see that are here most weeks and saying, would you like a ticket for a Rangers game? Well, much would you get? And that's how we did it. And if we had a queue, and just first come first served, then a good chunk of the crowd it was in wouldn't have been folk that deserved to see that game. And I based that on daft. I mean, Carly played St Johnston at Telford Street, from Carly were in the Highland League, and the replay was at McDermott Park. Now, my dentist in the Broch, Sandy Tasker, Dave will ken him, for Inverness, his family were a big Carly supporters. So we went down to that game, and I remember sitting in the Carly end in McDermott Park. It was in early, and there was a queue that was scary outside, because you can see through the conferred stands that are got. There was a huge crowd. We had to get into the Carly end, and it was almost full. And I'm thinking, there's somebody in that queue that probably hasn't missed a Carly game for a long time, and I'm sitting in a seat. But I think St Johnson opened up the restaurant and everybody got in, it was there. And I've always mind back on that, thinking, if that had been me, locked out or a game with a Broch as big as that, I would have been mortified. So sitting there thinking that you've seen somebody's place that can deserve it more than me, because it can happen to everybody then. So, and I had that in my mind for can distribute the tickets, just to make sure that everybody that can deserve the ticket going.
Yeah. I remember at the time, when the draw was made, somebody said to me, "Oh, there's no way Fraserburgh could cope with having Rangers at Bellslie." And I said, "Listen, if Cooter can cope with Partick Thistle, I think Fraserburgh can more handle Rangers." And it went. Obviously, there was a slight hitch with the tickets, which was totally with your control. But other than that, it went like clockwork, and you did a grand job, and you've given a lot of folk in the Broch a lot of special memories. So well done, Darby. Dave.
John, in 2003, you left Montrose as manager and you moved to Allen Park. Was that a good move at the time, John? Because it was the start of a long love affair with Cove Rangers.
Yeah, I think when you've been sacked from one job, you're quite keen to get back in again and just prove yourself that you can actually do the job. And Cove was perfect because it was in Aberdeen. It was easy to get the training and everything like that. So it was a perfect fit for me, and got to working with Graham Park and Raymond Charles, Duncan Little, Keith Moorhouse, the guys there. It was the perfect fit as far as I was concerned.
You had a great team at that time, John. It was a super Cove team.
Yeah, it took us a wee while to kind of get it knocked into shape, but then we got to 2007. We had a fair team on the park and a lot of really good players in there who managed to win back-to-back championships, which was great. Yeah.
Do you think, John, that Allen Park was an advantage to you or a disadvantage? Because I sometimes used to think that you played your best football on the wide open spaces at Princess Royal Park in Bamford, at Fort William, where it was a big pitch at that time. I think your guys could express themselves in the big pitch, where it wasn't quite so easy on the tight confines of Allen Park.
I think it was difficult because somebody could head the ball in the edge of your box and it was in the other box before you knew what was happening. So you really had to be on your guard. But at times you could use it to your advantage, but there are a number of times I remember it working against us. I remember a game against Fort William. We're 3-0 up in the League Cup. We had about 10 minutes to go, and before we knew it was 3-3. We were into extra time, so it can change really quickly there. But again, a lot of good times there. It was a good place with a social club, and everything was all connected up, so it was first class.
I can vouch for that, Dave, in the respect that from a linesman's point of view, I was on the line twice at Cove in Qualifying Cup quarter-finals, I think it was, and a Scottish Cup tie against Jim Leesman's Montrose, and I had to suffer the indignity of flagging for offsides And when the referee blew his whistle to stop play, it was only me and the goalkeeper in that half because the guy had made us run back into his own half, and everybody's looking at me as if I'd grown 2 heads. So that is a slight downside, but it certainly made me look fine and fit when I was refereeing, because I could the 18-yard line to 18-yard line, probably a record time. So
happy days. I remember the late Brian Christie running the line at Cove, and Sumo was standing about a yard onto the pitch running up and down, you know. He was a big laddie, Brian. And he said that's a sensible thing to do. Just go inside this in line and run up and down there. John.
Yeah, certainly wasn't a lot of room.
This is true. But after you left Cove and you went to Peterhead. Tell us the circumstances behind that one, John.
I had left Cove in 2009 really through work commitments. We just bought a business in Inverness and we've been a lot of travelling, so didn't really think I had enough time to do it. But Steve Innes, who was at director at Peterhead at the time, kind of been speaking to me, and they'd been having a tough time there and about the opportunity of going there. Felt I left it a wee bit too late. There was only a few games to go when I got the chance to go in, but that's how I ended up in there, trying to rescue them and then get going for the start of the next year. But it didn't work out. I probably made too many changes too quickly. But history is history. You just got to move on and take it on the chin.
If I remember rightly, your assistant at Cove, Graham Parkey, moved with you to Balmoor.
Yeah, both Raymond and Parkey came up there as well. So I think it was difficult because you had a kind of a split squad of South guys, North guys, and it'd been going through a really tough time. So confidence was at an all-time low. And I took a decision to try and make a lot of changes over the summer, and it didn't really work. So you learn something every time you go through these things.
Mm-hmm. And in 2014, it was back to your beloved Allen Park.
Yeah, got a surprise when Kevin decided to step down, and just really felt right. And again, you probably want to just prove everybody wrong that you can do the job. So that was what tempted me to go back and do it, and it really was fantastic that 5 years. And quite interestingly, both sessions or both times at Cove started off the first season winning the League Cup, so it seemed to be a nice way to go.
And you built a hugely successful team at that time, John.
Yeah, I think we were fortunate in the sense that being in Aberdeen, you can attract players from the Tayside region and all these areas. You're not just restricted to players in the north. So the chairman was great, supported me whenever I needed the support. And I think at that time, with the pyramid system in place, we then had the aim of trying to get into the Scottish League.
One person that opposition teams didn't like him very much, but he was always the first name on my team sheet for the team of the year. That was your centre half, Eric Watson. Did Eric remind you of yourself as a centre half in your younger days, John?
Well, he had a better left foot than I did, so but no, I think his will to win was tremendous, and I think he was a great leader, and he certainly showed the boys how to go about it, and he just set a tone for the performances. But we had so many good players through the club around that time, and we gradually, as Eric was getting older, he kind of went out the picture towards the end a wee bit, but he still played a huge part in that last year when we managed to win the league again and then eventually get into the Scottish League.
We'll touch on that shortly. Martin.
Norman, I was just want to get your thoughts on Dice Juniors in the future, if you can get your crystal ball out for us. You're saying there's a couple of new board members, etc. You're obviously very ambitious. You've got a fantastic setup at Ian Muir Park. It's a superb facility. You spoke about, have you applied, or are you in the process of making an application to join the Aberdeenshire FA?
We've applied, and I think it's a case of they haven't had meetings, you see, that's a problem. But we've had words with them, and they're keen to have us. We're keen to go. We just have to sort out one or two things which we think will get done very shortly.
Okay. So is floodlights part of that equation, Norman?
It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah.
Floodlights will be. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but, you know, Aberdeenshire FA today, tomorrow, aspirations to go higher?
Well, you're speaking about Pyramid now, are you?
Yep.
Aye. Well, the Pyramid, and I'm sure Finlay would agree, we're probably in the north very unfortunate in that we've got the largest area in Scotland. I mean, the west and the east, there's 60 to 80 miles in travelling for them. But like, so how Wick and Brora can afford to come every second week down into the reaches down here with the cost of buses, the time is it'll take to get there. And I think Finlay will probably agree it's going to be very difficult to get a system whereby everybody in the North region, the NCL, the North Caledonian League and the Highland League get together. It would make, I think, Finlay, would it be 59 or 60 teams to get them all into a league which would suit everybody? Because if you split the league, the Highland League, for instance, and you've got Brora and Wick and the teams in the north who are maybe, I don't know, doing it maybe Forest. I'm not saying that in any way deciding how it should be, but would they want to come into, would they want to go into a league with North Caledonia? I don't know. And I think it's going to be very difficult.
I've always been bewildered ever since I was a youngster that, you know, Inverness had the luxury of 3 teams in a Highland League, and yet until Cove came along, there was no representative for the Granite City. And, you know, I just found it, and I'm sure you maybe agree, Finlay, that it's quite amazing that a league it's strung out right along the northeast coast and in the west coast, Fort William, that there was no representation, and there is no representation now from Aberdeen, and I suppose arguably that's to the benefit of the Highland League clubs on the perimeter of the city. But I've just found it quite astonishing that a city the size and population of Aberdeen, that you know, I think the two Highland League representatives have had are now both in the Scottish League in respect, Cove Rangers and Aberdeen themselves. So it's something that I'm sure will be asked time and time again. Am I right in saying the North region is the only junior league now it hasn't embraced the pyramid system?
No, I think as a region we must be part of the pyramid system. But the problem is, Finlay will tell you, I mean, the crowds aren't getting bigger. You're getting TV every night of the week now. You're getting TV on a Sunday afternoon. It's very difficult to attract, even like Aberdeen. They're not getting the support that they should. You know, you go back when I was a young loon, you get 35, 40,000 at Pittodrie. Now you're lucky if you get 14, 15. I don't know how Cove are, I don't know how Cove are getting on, but with crowds, I would imagine they'll be quite good. They're a very successful team. But I'm sure Finlay would tell you that probably Fraserburgh, although they've been a very consistent team recently, but there are clubs in the Highland League not getting anything near the support that they got before. And money, especially now with this COVID-19, money is going to be a big problem in the next few years.
For sure. Dave?
John, I'm going to take you to a happy day down at Shielfield Park. But in order to experience the joys of that day, and I was there and you were there, maybe you weren't expected to be there, but you were there. But in order to enjoy that day, John, you had to suffer a disappointing day 12 months earlier down at Central Park in Cowdenbeath.
Yeah, we thought we had a good chance of beating Cowdenbeath. Unfortunately, we felt it was dealt with in the wrong manner by the referee. I'll try to put it politely, but simple terms, we made a hash of it. No, we got to try and use these things as a motivator for the next year, and I think it would have been easy for a lot of people just to crumble and not want to stand up to it. But the group of players and Graham Matheson, myself, Roy, the guys involved, you know, just tried to use that as a big motivation for the next year. And with Brora, Fraserburgh, and Inverurie, for Martin being so strong, to get to that time again, you've got to win the Highland League, which means winning almost every single game. You can't afford to drop points anywhere, and that was the focus for us, was to try and win every game that we could. Thankfully, the players rose to that challenge, and we got ourselves in a position to win the league again. But the Cowdenbeath year, we were just down to no players at all. We'd lost, you know, 2 guys to cruciates, Grant Campbell, Sam Burnett, Brian Strachan to a really bad ankle injury. And then on the morning of the game, Daniel Park's wife decided to go into labour. So we lost him in the morning of the game. So I think we had 3 or 4 subs at the most, and not really our first choice team to go forward. Mainly because of the amount of games we had to play. And you know, I'd experienced that in the amateurs, but as a Highland League team, we had to play 4 games in 1 week, which just shouldn't be happening in the lead up to trying to win a playoff. But we dealt with it, and the year after we had a full squad to pick from, and it was a different set of circumstances altogether.
It was a joyous day at Cheelfield Park, but it was an equally joyous day the week before. I know you watched this one from afar, the game at Balmoral Stadium, but did well both games, John, especially the first one.
Well, I was at the game at Balmoral as well, and I think I had Keith Moorhouse and my wife both tying me to the seat to make sure I wouldn't jump about, but that really set us up, and you know, the boys were absolutely tremendous. They knew what they had to do. They were good players. They knew what they had to do. They had the kind of drive of the previous year's disappointment, so they knew what they had to do. And the pleasing thing for me was at 2-0, we could have sat in and been comfortable, but you know, they drove themselves on and got the extra 2 goals, which really meant that the game the next week was almost a formality. So it was tremendous. And you had, what, 2,500 of a crowd there, so just shows you that the crowds will come out if the games are big enough and the football's good.
And 7 days later, it really was party time at Sheelfield Park, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think you've got a nervousness when you're ahead that, you know, something might happen. And, you know, Berwick had a good chance after about 7 or 8 minutes, and Brian Strachan got a great block in and stopped the guy with not quite an open goal, but a good attempt. And we went straight up the park and scored. And as soon as we got that one, I knew we were comfortable. We weren't going to get beaten in there. Guy gets sent off right on half time. So it's all fallen into place, and we were able to enjoy it. And I managed to escape my wife's clutches and get down to the touchline for the last 15 minutes. So it was absolutely fantastic to, you know, see guys like Duncan Little, you know, who've been after it for years, Keith Moorhouse, people like that, and all the supporters who followed us here, there, and everywhere. So it was the best day ever.
And we were all on the pitch after 90 minutes, John. It was a sea of blue.
Yeah, and you know, I think there was about 350, 400 Cove fans down there, so a hell of a long way to go, and there were lots of people on the trains and buses and everything to get there. So it was a great day for the club.
Martin, you've got a memory of that game?
Yeah, well, I'm where possible, I've tried to go and see as many pyramid playoff games as possible. I've been up to Brora for Edinburgh City, and I saw that tragic day at Harlow, where, dare I say, Cove didn't quite turn up against Edinburgh. And I also went down and saw Edinburgh progress to the SPFL against East Stirlingshire with a last-minute penalty. So, circumstances being as they were, we had safely tucked the title under our belt at Peterhead, so it freed up two Saturdays to go and see Cove. And we saw the game at Balmoral, and then we had an anoraks outing. Myself and a couple of friends from Highland League clubs travelled down, and you're right, you're saying there was a sea of blue as you went through Berwick and into the ground. But for me, the memory was at the game at Balmoral Park. Now, I know a lot of people at Berwick, etc., and they, although the ground is in England, they are staunchly Scottish. They consider themselves Scottish to participate in the Scottish League, or they did, and they were very much, they were Scottish themed. But for the first time I'd ever seen was when Berwick fans, who rightly had come out of the woodwork to support their club in their hour of need, suddenly at Balmoral Park there were all these English flags in the corner, and there was a lot of Scotland-England stuff going on, and I was a wee bit worried about it for a start, but it was all in good sort of good banter. But it was a very, very strong England-Scotland vibe to the game. So it was no surprise the following week when we went down to Berwick that suddenly there was all these saltires and lion rampants in the Cove crowd. And it was like a Battle of Britain. It was Scotland versus England revisited. And obviously the Scottish team triumphed at the end of the day. And I just had a wee smirk to myself when I saw the attendance that day, and it was 13-14.
Well, there you go.
So I'll never forget the crowd at Berwick that day. It was 13-14, just to tie in with Bannockburn.
I bumped into you before the game, Martin, that day.
That's right, John. I think I was maybe nervous for you that particular day. It's wonderful to witness history-making moments. I've been fortunate enough to be involved in some games where history was made at the time. Cove again, League Cup final 1994 at Huntly. Cove against Lossiemouth. First time the League Cup had ever been won in penalties in history. Cove again, qualifying cup against Cali. In the quarterfinals, Kenny Clark was the Class 2 referee. He went on to do quite well for himself. And that game went to penalties. It was the first time a Highland League team had ever qualified for the Scottish Cup on penalties. But these things kind of fall by the wayside. But history-making moments like progressing to the Scottish League for the first time, that's a big deal. So, I'll die a happy man saying I actually witnessed a Highland League team progressing, because we've got to remember, whilst maybe the Highland League took its foot off the gas a wee bit momentarily, there's no doubt in my mind, for the previous 120 odd years, Highland League was kind of aggrieved that there was no recognition. And they fought, our forefathers probably, had fought for that kind of recognition, and here we're seeing it finally happening. So it's a privileged moment in history as far as I'm concerned. So it was a great experience for the non-Cove Rangers fans as well.
I would say that as everybody at Cove loved their time in the Highland League, and we had some amazing trips and journeys back. And every place you went, you got a nice warm welcome being the Toonsers, especially at Fraserburgh. All right, Finlay.
Finlay, Highland League and Lowland League, I've heard Raymond Carno saying it, hopeful, and if we can just set aside the COVID-19 scenario for now, but I've heard Raymond saying that he's kind of made it his mission to see that there's an automatic promotion place to the winners of the playoffs. I'm going to ask you about that, and I'm also going to ask you about below the Highland League. Are there plans for change there, so that it's a pyramid system above and below?
Well, on your first point, I think it certainly should be the case that the bottom club in the Scottish, or the SPFL, should be relegated. I mean, it must be the only league that I can think of that if you finish bottom and there is some sort of playoff or can fluidness between them, they're not automatically get relegated. So yes, but it can at a time can be the teams have got any Elgin, Peterhead, Carly Thistle, etc. They had to apply to get in. As Cove can apply umpteen times and never got in. As did Huntly applied. So there wasn't a lot of success for that, but it was the only way you get into the SPFL. So there should be some sort of system that if the winners of the Highland Lowland playoff should automatically get in. And then I think that's right. But back at the time, because it was so long that there was nothing, just to have something was fine. So it was agreed. Kind of the SPFL, I think it was the Scottish League, well, maybe a time, but no, it would have been SPFL. The can just get a scrap or a playoff against the bottom team was enough, and everybody was happy with that. But again, back at that time, it was like an uncertainty for everybody to get into they were fearful of if it was in front of them if they got up. Ken Brora made some statements about the finances, but it was nothing untoward. I think it was just the fact it was unknown. But since it's happened, I mean, everybody's aware that there's certainly more money available. Maybe not a lot more, but certainly a sizable chunk more than what you would get for winning the Highland League. I mean, just being in the Betfred Cup or the Dunnock's Caramel Wafer Trophy, whatever it's called, you get something for just playing a game in that scenario. So I think it's maybe time that something should be put in place that allows the winner of that playoff to automatically get up. So I mean, Cove this year and Edinburgh City the year before and this year have shown that teams for our leagues can compete at that division and barely compete. Below the Highland League, absolutely, there should be something. There's not a lot of teams that have got their club licensing. Golspie, Bankside, there are only two. I'm assuming Dice are going to can do that route because it's not unachievable, I think, for Dice to get at. The makeup of that league or leagues below the Highland League can still to be determined, but I think us being Highland League, our vision would be that there would be like the North Cali League and the top league of the North Juniors, and then they would play off and then replace bottom, because that's the point that has to be made, that we cannot complain about our winners making an automatic promotion by virtue of playoff if we're not going to allow if it's below us up if they have got the criteria. So if whoever finishes bottom should be relegated. But as I say, Golspie Sutherland for the Caledonian League and Bankside, the North Juniors, are the only two clubs that at this point have got their club licensing. Now, whether that can the juniors doing south are just being pillaged. I mean, nobody's leaving. I think there's a heap mayor or what I believe in. So there's not an awful lot of teams doing that way. And the Tayside region, I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be left for them, to be honest. And I haven't really looked that much into it. But I mean, from a Broch point of view, and it is only from a Broch point of view, we would love a crack at the Scottish League just for the experience, because if it didn't work out and we got relegated, there's worse places to get relegated into than the Highland League. But there is only 3 clubs or 3 places in Scotland that have got a football team in Scotland that's further for Wick than it is for the Broch. That's Stranraer, Queen and South and Annan. So every other club that plays in the SPFL is closer to Belsley Park than Wick are. And it's a far better road now than bypasses over. So travelling is not an issue for the Broch, because we've done it for long enough. But it is an issue for teams in Central, because they're used to not a lot of travelling. And you can hear even the bigger clubs complaining about getting to Ross County and to Carly Thistle with the distance of getting up to the A9. So it can be, that's because that's not what they're used to. But we are used to travelling about. Can a trip to Wick? I mean, okay, if I look out my window in a clear day, you can almost see Wick. But it takes 200 miles to get there. It's only 65 by sea. In fact, if the wifey's house across the road, if it was to not be the wifey's house across the road, there was nothing between my house and Wick.
Norman,
there should be.
Do you concur with Finlay? I know your concern is obviously travelling in the Highland League for a junior club, but is there a possibility that it's something that could happen in the near future?
I think they're talking about it now. It's just how they come up with the answer that suits a lot of clubs. Because, you know, if you go, for instance, Finlay, if you go and split the Highland League, which is not what you're saying, which is, and your idea is probably quite right, that it should be a playoff and then decided how to manage the junior or North Caledonian team going into the Highland League. It's quite possible. Of course, we all need to get licensing, which is a problem for a lot of teams because some of them play with the grounds that are owned by the councils and they've got to get permission for it. We've got the airport near us, but I don't think that'll be a problem because there are places around Dice where they have got floodlighting and they don't seem to be a problem. I mean, if a plane lands near a park, it will probably end up in Lawson's at Dice, or far Lawson's at Dice were. No, I think it's go ahead, and we should be considering it, but we've got to do it right because I don't think, Finlay, that in a lot of areas it's been done right. The South of Scotland League, for 2 years ago, got 25 junior teams to go into their league, which they formerly didn't want to go. They didn't want the junior teams in. After one season, their top league was completely made up of teams that had come for the juniors. So that was the reason they didn't want them to start, because they knew the juniors were probably better than they were. Now that the whole of the West of Scotland League in juniors, 68 teams have gone to the West of Scotland League, which is run under the SFA. The guys in the committee at the Scottish juniors, who were members of clubs in the West of Scotland, the West Junior League, voted for going into the West of Scotland League, and then they came back and said, we'll only go in if we get to play in the Scottish Junior Cup. And we said, Jesus, but then they had more people in the council than the rest of us put together, so the vote went through crazily. But it's amazing. They'll get to play, although they'll be in the West Scotland League, they'll actually play in the Scottish Junior Cup if they pay their membership, which is, I think, is a crazy idea. It's like a Highland League. If we said to the Highland League boys, hey, you can go into the Junior Cup because yours is just in the same tier as the West Scotland League. Crazy.
Dave.
But let's get on. We should be thinking about it and trying to support everybody, support other clubs.
Yeah, I don't think a pyramid should be to the detriment of can clubs survive it. I mean, if you've got the criteria, everything has got a bottom. Can every pyramid system has an end to it somewhat. But if it's opened up, that allows even an amateur team to get facilities in place, and if there's a will to do so, then they get up. But like a Brechin's example, they finished bottom, and there was stuff on the radio a few weeks back, and basically accusing Brechin of bullying folk. Now, Ken Ferguson is one of the nicest folk you're ever likely to meet. There's not a bully in him, to be honest. But their point was that the majority of their players are from the Tayside area or south. So for them to be relegated into the Highland League with 6 or 7 weeks' notice under normal circumstances, they would have to release every single player and then build a new team. But the players that they would need are already playing the Highland League. So they wouldn't feel that they would be able to challenge to get back into the Scottish League or SPFL. And that's what the issue is. But as far as the abuse that Ken Ferguson's been getting, it's actually a shame. I know Ken quite well, and as I said, he really is one of the nicest folk and you're likely to meet.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Finlay is a nice lad, and it's undeserved that he's getting a lot of abuse. He's not making that decision to do what they're doing.
No, that's right. But the point being that the pyramid system shouldn't be forcing teams into almost folding. So there should be leeway shown that for clubs, certainly if their existence is at stake.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think certainly as Cove as a club, we are 100% behind the pyramid system, and we've stated that in all of the meetings that we've been involved in, that you've got to maintain that, and our view is still the same, that Team 42 should be relegated, and they want to go up. Nothing's changed from that point of view.
Well, John, Cove have got to be admired. I mean, for the days they were amateurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got to be admired for all the work they've done. They've certainly had the people there to do exactly what they wanted to do, and nothing but admiration for them.
And it shows that it is possible for any team, and definitely you're talking about a team coming to the amateurs and working their way up. So it definitely is possible, and you've kind of got to believe that if you want to do it, you can do it.
But if Cove had been successful with their first application, they would have went for amateur to the Scottish League in something like 15 or 16 years.
Yep.
Reconstruction is a hot topic now, John, isn't it? I mean, some say that there's a bit of a shambles going on at the moment with legal challenges and things like that. What's your own take on the situation as we stand just now, John?
Well, I think obviously it's a completely unique and emergency situation that we're in, and I think that there should be some way of not disadvantaging teams through COVID. and certainly our view would be that we'd support a 14-10-10-10 setup, which everyone gets promoted and nobody gets relegated. Bringing in Kilty, bringing in Brora, that would be our view of how it would go forward. There's obviously different views across the whole range, but the reconstruction group that I was sitting on, we got started, but it was kind of disbanded because the Premier League said they weren't going to take 14 teams. So the whole thing is dependent on them taking 14 teams. So I think they have to, Premier League needs to think about the rest of football and help us out for, a couple of years to allow us to get a bit of solidarity back into all the teams, and teams get refinanced again and ready to push on. So hopefully they can find a way to get the thing resolved. And for me, we need to get back to speaking about playing football again. My personal view is if they're putting kids back to school in August, why are we not allowed to go to football grounds? I just can't understand why that's the case. Talking about restaurants opening and places like that, why can we have a game of football outside? It just seems absolutely crazy in my mind. But I understand we need to be safe, we need to do things right, but it seems a bit at odds with me.
I think we'd all love to see football back at the start of the season, John. Whether it'll happen, I've got my doubts. But it was very laudable, as you said, that you progressed through the pyramid system, and it would be grossly unfair if Brora and indeed Kelty Rangers were denied that challenge of getting up through the playoff system. That's not going to happen. But it would be grossly unfair, in my opinion, if they weren't even given the chance to get into the Scottish League this year.
I don't disagree with that, and I've got to say that in the bulk of the people on the reconstruction group were all supportive of the pyramid system applying and potentially both Kelty and Brora coming up. So I've seen a lot of support for that carrying on, and certainly we've been pushing it every time we've had the chance. And as I say, the blocker to that isn't necessarily going to be the lower league clubs or whatever. It's probably going to be the Premier League not accepting 14.
But before I leave you, John, how have you managed with the role of going from team manager, handling all things team-wise in the dugout, to director of football at Balmoral Stadium? It's
a bit different, I've got to say. And I usually warn the person sitting in front of me in the stand that they'll get a few kicks, and I still manage to shout at the referee, which, most people know I'm not a fan of referees. So
shocking.
I occasionally I have an odd shout at them, but it was my decision to do it, so and it was the right thing to do. No point in taking any chances, because when you stand in the touchline, you react to what happens on the park, and the last thing you need to do is jumping up and shouting at a referee and whatever. So I think from my point, or shouting at players, whatever. I think from my point of view, it's I'm getting used to it slowly, but still nothing can replace being in the touchline. But again, if you've gone from being a player to a manager, nothing can replace playing. And then you're compensating all the time. You go from playing to coaching to management. It's just a replacement for actually playing yourself.
Well, from a personal point of view, John, I'd like to thank you on my behalf for always fronting up after a game. Win, lose or draw, unlike some, you were always fronting up to have an interview with me, and I thank you so much for that.
No problem, Dave. Thank you.
Dave, I'm going to have a change of mood now. I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever met a pop star?
Have I ever met a pop star? Martin, I have met a pop star. She was a lovely lady also. She appeared last year at the Music Hall in Aberdeen, and I was a bit latching out, went for something to eat after the show, and I parked in Golden Square, and when I was passing by to get my car, this lady was waiting for a taxi to go up the road, and she was staying at Treetops overnight, and I chatted to her for about 10 minutes, and she was a lovely, lovely lady, a lady with a great voice, a lady called K.D. Lang.
Okay, I suppose that certainly counts. I also can stake a claim to have met a pop star. I was on a family holiday, and we were walking along through Central Park, and my friend says to me, "Look her there, there's Cyndi Lauper. Go and get your camera and see if you can take a photo of her." And I says, oh, I think I can do one better than that. Hands him a camera and grabs Cindy Lauper and says, Miss Lauper, can I have a photo, please? She says, are you Irish? I says, no, I'm Scottish. And then she went on to tell me our baby son had had a hole in his heart when he was born, and they nicknamed him Braveheart. So she had a big Scottish connection. But the reason why I ask you, Dave, if you've ever met a pop star, is for the self-same reasons. Now, I've got up on the screen a certain acquaintanceship. Finlay, enlighten us.
Well, the board members of the SFA and sometimes the professional game board members, if there's a big crowd at the pre-match lunch, so they're asked to host one of the tables. And in this particular game against Slovenia, the table that I was hosting had Rod Stewart sitting next to me. Now, I'm pretty sure that Alan MacKay had a lot to do with this, because there's no secret that Rod Stewart is a great big hero of mine. So it was quite, and I'd seen him a few times before, but no obviously to speak to. But I'm not into selfies or can what can I feel yourself by asking for selfies. And so I handed Darren McCrae, Alan's son, was at the other side of me, so I'd asked him to stick my camera and at some point take a photo, because there's no way that I would have been brave enough to ask Rod Stewart for a photo. So Darren took 2 or 3 photos actually. But can they say that sometimes you shouldn't meet your heroes in case they didn't live up to your expectations? But he was brilliant. It was an hour and a half for the meal and what have you, and he was brilliant company. A lot of folks thought he was drunk in that photo, but at that point he hadn't actually touched a drink. He made up for it for the next 90 minutes, but at that point he hadn't had any drink, so he's no drunk. But good company, and a really down-to-earth guy. So I was quite pleased with that.
Great stuff.
Martin, can I tell you, continuing the musical theme?
Yep.
In 2003, when John Sheran joined Cove Rangers, A Lassie for Rothes was number 5 in the charts.
You're quite correct. In fact, our dad used to be on the committee. I mean, we're unashamedly got every connection, either direct or indirect, to Rothes. We wouldn't be Rothes losers if we didn't. But you're right, Dave. Our dad was in the committee at Rothes at one time. Would you like to enlighten the guys to? Yes.
Her name was Sarah Jane Scott, and her dad, Gordon Scott, was my Sunday school teacher, would you believe? A long time ago. Anyway, in 2003, Sarah Jane was on Top of the Pops, and you can YouTube it. Put in her group. Her group were called Divine Inspiration. The song was Put Your Hand in My Hand, and I don't know if Finlay put his hand in Rod's hand, but never mind.
As long as it was just his hand, that's okay.
It reached number 5, and introducing the song is Nicky Campbell, a very young Nicky Campbell. And unlike most of the people in Top of the Pops at that time, she sung it live. She didn't mime, she sung it live, and she got to number 5 in the charts that week, way back in 2003. And it was Sarah Jane Scott, the group Divine Inspiration. Have a look.
What we'll maybe do is on Twitter, we'll put up the link. I would have liked to have used the video on here at the end, but I think there might be repercussions if we did that. So, and the budget doesn't, it's all right for Murray Firth Radio paying £1,000 fines when Dave Edwards does something wrong, but we can't break the broadcasting rights. No pop stars for the Broch and Finlay, I take it. No, that'll be a no then.
Dennis Nielsen was the Broch.
Well, we'll maybe move on in that end. Dave's head scratcher.
Okay, it's an easier one this week, I think. There's one Highland League team won the league more than any other. Can you name that team? And what year were they formed? They've won it 18 times. Name me that Highland League team that won the league 18 times, and tell me the year they were formed.
And how do you do that, Dave?
You can go with your answers on Twitter. Just put in Up the Dooney, UPTHEPOONI. That's a Rothis. Now, Norman, I see you smiling here. Have you got any stories about Up the Dooney?
No, no. I can tell you, Dave, John was speaking about he didn't like referees, but over the years, we've probably all met referees, apart from you, Martin. Your hair I got in your eyes. We had a guy called Charlie Crow. Do you remember Charlie?
Yes.
I remember Charlie, yeah.
And this day at Linksfield, we were playing Linksfield 2. Charlie came in with this red gear on. Now, referees only wore black in them days, going back to the 70s. Charlie came in with this red gear on, and I was sitting, I said, go and give us a twirl, Charlie. So sure enough, he was lovely, he'd a twirl, and then he come and start inspecting the boots. And one of the guys in our committee at that time, a guy called Chucky Thorne, who is now the T-man at Stonehaven, Chucky had chewing gum, and he said, Charlie, would you like a bit of chewing gum, Che? And Charlie said, oh, I love it. Away, you got chewing gum away. And check the rest of the boots. Went to one, and half time, we were leading 1-0, quite an important game for us that day against Stony Wood. And we're leading 1-0, and suddenly the door burst open, and over Charlie burst in, and his face and his teeth and his lips were purple, even his hands were purple. Chucky had given him stuff with the Jock Factory.
Oh, well, I'm glad there was never any.
But the end of that was, at the end of the game, we got beat 2-1 with 2 controversial penalties. Charlie, by this time, had washed his face, and he just poked his head on the door, and he looked at us two, and he says, hard luck, boys.
Oh, well, sounds like he managed to wriggle his way out of that evening. Right, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure once again. Special thanks to John Sheran, Finlay Noble, and Norman MacKay. We've managed to do it within the 2-hour target, so a big pat in the back for us, Dave.
That's a surprise.
Next week, we'll have one guest who is a multiple Highland League title manager. We'll have one guest who's a current Highland League manager who has won the league title. And we'll have one guest who's a former Highland League player and coach who has a very special hidden talent. As always, keep safe and see you next week.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. That's brilliant.